What is up, everybody? You already know who it is. It's your boy, Mucho. And I'm back bringing you guys another Bible reading. Bible Day 6, Genesis 15 to 18. That's right, Genesis 15 to 18 is what we are covering today. Alright? And you know me, I don't like to talk that much, so let's begin our daily reading, of the Holy Scripture. Thank you very much. God's covenant with Adam. With the passing time of Abram begins to concern that he and Sarai still have no children. How can his offspring inherit the land if there are no children? Must the inheritance come only through the children of his head servant, Eliezer, who he could adopt in order to preserve his line of inheritance? Abram is generally puzzled. So God reassures Abram that he himself will have children who in turn will multiply exceedingly. When God also restates his earlier promise to Abram's descendants would inherit the land, Abram asked God for a sign that his promise is true. God graciously overlooks Abram's insecurity and instructs Abram to prepare for a covenant after the manner in which agreements are commonly sealed during this time. By the prevailing custom, the covenanting parties pass between the split carcasses of animals which have been specifically killed for the ceremony, as if the covenanters are saying, "This same fate be to all my herds and flocks, should I not keep my promise." God's passage through the pieces of slain animals comes in the appearance of a blazing torch, whereupon the promise is sealed. Interestingly, God alone presses through the carcasses, indicating the unique one-sidedness of this covenant. Just before covenanting takes place, God appears to Abram in his sleep and tells him that his descendants will serve as slaves in the foreign land before returning to possess the land of Canaan. Subsequent text bears out that the detailed accuracy of God's prophetic vision to Abram when the Hebrew nation is later enslaved in Egypt for some 400 years. Perhaps the most significant statement at this point in record of Abram is the fact that when God promises Abram's children, Abram believes God. As will soon be evident, Abram is not sure that the children will come through himself and Sarai, but never again will fail to trust that God's power, he will somehow have offspring. As the account of God's covenanting with Adam begins, God may also be addressing Abram's fear of revenge from the eastern kings whom Abram has recently defeated. Abram's concerned about hair. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward." But Abram said, "Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus?" And Abram said, "You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be a heir." God promises Abram children. Then the word of the Lord came to him. "This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be the heir." And he took him outside and said, "Look up in the sky and count the stars. If you indeed can count them, then he Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. Abram believed in the Lord, and he credited him to his righteousness. Abram asks for a sign. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur and of the Chaldeans, to give to you this land to take possession of it. But Abram said, so, Sovereign Lord, how can I know I will gain possession of it? Preparation for covenant. So the Lord said to him, bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, among with a dove and a young pigeon. Abram brought all these to him, cut them in two, and arranged them the hives opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. Then the birds of the prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. Prediction of slavery. As the sun was settling, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the arbitraries has yet not reached its full measure. God promises Abram land. When the sun had set and the darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, to your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river of the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites and Kenatites, Kamantes, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Gargashtes, and Jebustes. Sites? I don't freaking know. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce all these. I really am. 1 second. Alright, never mind. Birth of Ishmael through Hagar. Almost 10 years has passed since God renewed his promise that Abram would have children. Although both Abram and Sarai continue to believe that it will happen, Sarai appears to begin to wonder if the promise specifically includes her as a mother of Abram's offspring. Despite her faith in the promise, Sarai finally convinces herself that she is not a part of God's plan and comes up with an idea to help make the promise come true. She suggests that Abram takes a secondary wife for her Egyptian maid servant, Hagar. By the custom of the times, it is altogether proper, even if somewhat personally humiliating, for a woman of Sarai's position to give her servant to her husband for the purpose of bearing children. Children born under such arrangement may inherit as natural children. Therefore, when viewed from a strictly human perspective, Sarai's suggestion is both unselfish and ostensibly designed to bring about God's promise to Abram. With Hagar's pregnancy, however, it soon becomes clear that the plan is fraught with problems. Pride, jealousy, and alienation of affections naturally arose in such a mixture of relationships, and in the end, Hagar runs away from her mistress. However, Hagar is instructed to return and be submissive. God promised Hagar that the descendants of her son, Ishmael, will be countless, but prophesies that Ishmael and his offspring will be characterized by hostility, particularly against his brothers. It is noteworthy that in centuries to follow, there were conflict in the Middle East between the Arabs who descended from Ishmael and the Jews who also descends from Ishmael's stepbrother, a son soon to be born. Sarai suggests a second wife. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. She had an Egyptian slave named Hagar, so she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarah said. Abram takes Hagar as a wife. So after Abram had been living in Canaan for 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar and she is conceived. Trouble between wives. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she's pregnant, she displeases me. May the Lord judge between you and me. Your slave is in your hands," Abram said. "Do with her whatever you think is best." Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. Angels talked to Hagar. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near the spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road of Shur. And he said, "Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" "I am running away from my mistress Sarai," she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." Then the angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will now give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hands will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." Hagar names the angel. She gave the name to the Lord who spoke to her. "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." That is why the well was called Bir Lahi Road. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. Ishmael is born. So Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. Oh, excuse my neck. I'm sore still. Names of the circumcision of signs of covenant. Names and circumcision as signs of covenant. Alright. The Genesis record is silent as to what events transpired over the next few years. However, the door to history is once again opened some 13 years after Ishmael's birth. At this time, God appears once again to Abram in order to reinstate his promise and to confirm his prior covenant with Abram. The two signs are given to mark the occasion. The first involves the changing of Abram and Sarai's name, whereas Abram was meant exalted father as new name Abraham signifies the father of many. And whereas Sarai has meant princess, God added a dignity befitting a princess who is the mother of many in making the slight change to Sarah. A happy part of God's appearance to Abram is the surprise announcement that Sarah herself will bear the son of promise. Abraham's response to the announcement has been viewed by many to be one of skepticism, in which Abraham pleads to the God to let Ishmael instead be the honored son. However, the text seems to indicate quite to the contrary, that in fact Abraham laughs in joyous amusement that after all these years he's increasingly human odds against it. Even the son's name Isaac, which means he laughs, will memorialize this outburst in Abraham's happiness. Although Abraham's overjoyed at the prospect of fathering a son through Sarah, nevertheless it is obvious that Abraham is become attached to his son Ishmael. Therefore Abraham takes that Ishmael is to be able to share in God's blessing. God assures Abraham that Ishmael as well as Isaac will have many descendants, but make it clear that it will come through Isaac's lineage to the covenant will be honored. As a second sign of God's covenant with his chosen people, God institutes the rite of circumcision for all the males in Abraham's household, including servants and others not naturally part of the family by birth. With the inclusion of those who are not direct descendants of Abraham, there are even now a striking affirmation of God's promise to bless all peoples on earth. The rite of circumcision is not itself a novel practice in these times. Evidence points to such a custom along Ephraim's, Sarans, Pharaohkins, and even some Egyptians. However, in those societies, the rite is normally associated with the child's coming of age at puberty and being accepted into the community. The circumcision commanded by God is distinct in that it takes place in early infancy and is imbued with great religious significance. The act of cutting off the male's foreskin is not to be thought as merely or even partly hygienic. Rather, this symbolic ritual represents constriction and dedication as well as spiritual purity. Circumcision of the young males is to be a sign of God's covenant with all the descendants of Abraham, both male and female, and reminder of the obligation and of righteousness therein. Perhaps most importantly, circumcision foreshadows the purity of lineage through which all the world will someday be blessed. Oh. Confirmation of covenant. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you and will greatly increase your numbers. Abram's name change. Abram fell face down, and God said to him, As for me, this is my covenant to you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make your nations of you, and kings will come to you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. Land promise renewed. The whole land of Canaan where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give you everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Circumcision as a sign. And then God said to Abraham, As for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, for all generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you. The covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. For generations to come, every male among you who is 8 years old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner. Those who are not your offspring, whether born in your household or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut from his people. He has broken my covenant. Sarai's name changed. God also said to Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you will no longer call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her, and she will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of the nations. Kings of people will come for her. Abraham's amazed. Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? Blessings for Ishmael. And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessings. And God said, yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him, and I will make him fruitful, and I will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation. But my covenant will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time of that next year. When he had finished speaking with Abraham, God went up from him, male circumcised. On that very day, Abram took his son Ishmael and all those born in his household, and bought with his money every male in his household, and circumcised them, as God told him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13. Abraham and his son Ishmael were both circumcised on that very day. And every male in Abraham's household, including those born in his house or bought from a foreigner, was circumcised with him. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was today's reading. Let's do a quick reflection. So Abram got a name change, so did Sari. I hope I'm saying their names right there. Abraham and Sarah. They are very doubtful that they will have new children. It seems like everybody had hella kids. If you had as many kids as they did back in the day, boy, you would get hit with child support quick. I'm just saying. But yeah, so Abraham had doubts that he was going to be given a son. So did Sarah. She was given doubts, so she gave up her slave to give birth to her husband. To give him a child, so their descendants can rule the land. Through all the promise that God had given them. I think all this is crazy. Still, it blows my mind. They're just having major kids, and they're getting promised all this land. And then imagine being told that for 400 years your family will be enslaved. That's crazy. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to do some more reflecting on my own. So yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Genesis 15 or whatever. I don't know. Was it 15 to 18? Yeah. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it.